Hi, I'm Paul Winn. Welcome to Head On, a show about events and activities in Nanaimo and on Vancouver Island. And tonight we have a very interesting topic for you. And two of my guests, Dr. Ralph Nilson, Vancouver Island University President and Chancellor, and Mr. Steve Arnette, who's with the Youth Services Association of Nanaimo. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Now, what is this tuition waiver thing? What is it about?
You know, the tuition waiver thing it's very interesting to me because I've learned a lot in the 3 years that we've been involved with it. One of my teachers has been Steve. It's about an opportunity to ensure that we're providing support for young people who age out of foster care, who don't have families, who don't have parents, and don't have the means to continue on in university. There's a little bit of government money here and there, but very, very little. They get cut off from most of their financial support when they turn 18. And Vancouver Island University has taken the decision to support them and provide tuition waiver for any young person who wants to go on to post-secondary education, who has the academic background to get into the university, and indeed to support them throughout their education career at the university.
So this has been going on for 3 years, you said?
3 years now. Yeah, when we opened the doors, we took in 17 students first year.
Wow, what a well-kept secret.
Yeah, it's been a real joy for us because we've learned so much, again, from our community partners, Steve and the Nanaimo Youth Services. They've been so supportive. Marianne Tapel-Lafon, she's the one that really poked us hard and said, hey, you better look at this. This is really an unmet need in the province that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, she's a force to be reckoned with for certain. How did you get involved, Steve?
Well, I'm a social worker by training, and my specialty is working with young people who are trying to become citizens. And some of them struggle, and many young people who struggle will have had experience in the child welfare system. Many of those young people really struggle to get through grade 12. When they do, as Ralph said, there wasn't a lot of support for them. There were lots of people advocating for them, and that's outside of government, in government, in public institutions such as Vancouver Island University. And what we started to do actually is look around for champions, and so we found one. And what started to happen was we were beginning to see, with the proper supports, a number of kids that would come to us from the child welfare system. We would be helping them transition into adulthood, and they would manage to finish grade 12, which if you know the literature and the stats around kids across the country who've been in the system of foster care, low numbers graduating. And that's, not pointing fingers anywhere, but we needed to do something about that. Once you get them through grade 12, though, they need the means to be able to go to post-secondary education. And that was difficult for many of them in terms of financial access, et cetera, and then the infrastructure support. And as I said, we found a champion. We started to take our kids who were just going to graduate, and we would have lunch with Ralph. And he would come down as the president of the university, comes down, and have lunch with these young people and help them dream that university was possible for them.
This obviously means the university is offering more than just financial support to these students.
We've got a wonderfully values-based institution where the importance of access for people in this region has been a fundamental part of the institution for many, many years, and in fact, probably since its inception. There's many people in our community that just are live below the poverty line, don't have the choices, and at our institution, the faculty, the staff, recognize our responsibility to the communities that we serve. And so this resonates very, very well across our community. The recognition that we have a responsibility to provide access, and indeed, in a region that's in transition economically, it's so important to have people that are provided the opportunity for post-secondary education so they can make a contribution to that transition, and much more of a knowledge-based economy that's going to continue to evolve here on the island. So it's a real strong support a real strong stepping forward by individuals who are really engaging to ensure that the students can be as successful as they possibly can.
Well, I think a lot of the kids who are in, care, they get, in a lot of ways, they get a bad rap. They've got to be under a lot of pressure. I mean, just psychological pressure. They don't have maybe the same stable home life that other children might have, but facing a university education, and that's always intimidating, I think, for a lot of kids, that they don't think I have what it takes to get past that barrier and enter a university. But this is, I mean, I was thinking about you're offering more than just tuition. That like that's the thing. What you're talking about is a whole lot of other support mechanisms that have to come in play.
It's a welcoming environment, and I think we've had people. Ralph mentioned Mary Ellen Trappell, who we all owe a debt of gratitude to in terms of her consummate passion for these young people. And what you have to have is not just the access, but a welcoming environment, and that's what Ralph has just talked about. He and the people that inhabit that institution have a sense of social conscience, a sense of social justice, a true, genuine sense of caring. And at the level of young people coming in, both my sons have gone through that institution, and when they got there, they were fairly, you're 17 or 18, and you think you're pretty sophisticated, but really you get on campus and it is intimidating, no matter how sophisticated you think you are. And so if you are also struggling with the fact that you're just getting used to the idea that you could imagine that you could be there and be successful, and so that kind of welcoming starts with the lunches that we've had with Ralph with some of these young people, where they're sitting there at the table and they look, and this is the president of the university, and they're, oh, well, this is somebody really important, but he's so approachable and so engaging that the next thing you know, you can't get a word in edgewise. The kids are talking to him, and when we're done, and it usually goes for a couple of hours.
But that's important. You're right, because
they're already feeling welcomed.
They need to see a person who's in charge, and see them as a normal human being who probably had some of the same concerns they had as young people, and can relate, because I think that. When I think of my own childhood, university was the farthest thing from my mind. Like that was I was not I was a reasonably good athlete, so my mindset was in that direction. Not education, but I grew up and realized that the body can only do so much. The mind has to take over and do some stuff too. But what sort of things does the university do with the students other than just waiving the tuition?
Well, we waive the tuition. We have conversations with them. We have contact people for them to make sure that they're supported. We also have, through a number of different departments, whether through student services or financial aid office, they know they've got people to talk to. Through our counseling, all of our counselors know the individuals and are able to provide them with support. They've got a go-to person all the time. We try and find them opportunities for getting engaged on campus in different ways. We can find work-study programs, that sort of thing. Then the other thing that's been really wonderful is our foundation has really grabbed onto this too. And our foundation is a group of community people who help us fundraise. And primarily they've done work relative to providing supports for students across the board, whether it be high-end scholarships for the top students, or whether it be for students who are looking for support to be able to come because they have absolutely no means to come. And so what they've done and how we've worked is we've looked at a variety of different places to get extra funding, so we can provide students with some extra relief as it relates to the other costs of daily living. Sure. Because once again, most of the children don't have families to go home to and have a cup of soup with. They can't go and say, boy, I can't make it to the end of the month. I need another $100 to cover off this week's food. They just don't have that. And so we want to make sure that there's some extra supports there, that they can get emergency funds, they can get extra support. We can be aware of what their own personal situation is and support them. And as a result of the work we're doing, we're helping others understand across the country that this is a very important part of our values-based institution. And we're working on, we have a number of other initiatives that are related. But we've gone out to some of the large national foundations and asked them to help us on this. And so we just received a very generous donation from the Joyce Foundation, based in the East, who recognize the importance of the work we're doing, and especially for young people. Again, because not everybody is a traditional aid student coming in through this program.
Sure.
Some people have finished high school, haven't had the courage, or indeed have had a barrier not to come on. They work for a little while, find out, I'm not getting anywhere, I need to go back to school, so they're over 24. Absolutely no availability for funding for them on any government programs after 24. So now we've got a little bit of extra funds, because we provide the tuition waiver after 24.
Okay, great.
But we've got a little extra funds to make sure that they have an access to some emergency funds and other supports to help them be able to deal with all of the challenge of coming to school and the costs. Many young people that age are starting to have children. The daycare costs, a variety of other things. And we want to make sure they're successful and not having to drop out. One of the things, Paul, that I've really noticed, because I've been in a very fortunate position to listen to a lot of these young people, because I ask them about themselves. And I'm privileged because I get to meet many of them, and we don't share their names, people don't know who they are. But again, when I listen to them and listen to the story, and this is what I appreciate from, after visiting with Steve, I'm amazed at the resiliency, absolutely amazed at the resilience of these young people, and the capacity to move beyond the kind of barriers that would be really challenging for so many of us in the lives that we live. And boy, they're going, they're smiling, and one of the biggest things when we get together as a group and have a conversation, we'll have a meal and we'll talk, out of everybody's mouth comes, hey, how can I help with this? How can I help other folks that are in this situation? To a T, every one of them comes back and either whispers to me quietly or raises their hand in the group and says, what can I do to help with this? So to me, that's a demonstration, once again, of these young people who have really seen some challenging things in their lives. They're taking on all the challenges, and they're saying, how can I help somebody else? To me, that's a real positive.
I suspect, too, that the more that people know about the activities in the program, more than just for myself, it was a surprise to say, okay, there's a tuition waiver, but it's like the iceberg, that's the tip, but I would suspect there would be other people who would be willing to make some kind of contribution or assistance to the program to help, these young people beyond the tuition fee and or maybe just a counselor, somebody to have bend an ear with periodically from time to time, and I don't know, that just strikes me as part of because university life can be a lot of fun.
Yes.
To be able to participate in it, it does require sometimes having a few bucks and maybe the right clothes and stuff, and so that part comes into it as well.
Well, there are, first of all, the first thing I want to say is that in terms of this as a sociological change, this is change on the institutional level. So the Board of Governors at VIU and Ralph really are the first ones who stood up and said, the notion of public education and access to post-secondary education is one fundamentally that fits with Canadian values and social justice, that equity and opportunity for young people. So when I sat and I was thinking about this interview, I was thinking, I was around it, kind of parted on the periphery, and part of it through our young people. It isn't just young people coming out of foster care, it's all young people who are struggling and, as Ralph said, don't have the means. For us, it was a very specific group of young people. So there's lots of other young people, and they've had those struggles. They don't necessarily come out of foster care, but that opportunity at an institutional level is, I think, in a decade from now, people are going to go, oh, that was a watershed, because other institutions are starting to pick up now, and not to be modern or whatever, but it really is. There's only one first, and VIU is first. And they did that out of courage and conviction and caring. From a perspective of other people to help, one of the people who couldn't be here tonight was Rebecca from the Federation of Social Services. And that's a group that we belong to as a major social agency. There's 140 agencies across BC that serve children, youth, and ranging through to people who live with a disability. And every year, we have a number of meetings, but every year we do a fundraising. There's been a fundraising individually for the people who come to the membership meetings and to the AGM. And for the last number of years, some very hardworking people, and I got to be part of that a couple of years ago, go and reach into people's pockets, and on average, we're producing anywhere from $17,000 to $22,000 a year out of those donations. And then we would have a group, and I sat on the group one day, in which young people who were coming out of foster care, particularly, could apply for these scholarships. They weren't anything relative to the commitment that VIU's made, because you know, as a group of people, we really were reaching into our pockets, so to speak. And our dilemma always was, there's not as much money in terms of a meaningful tuition help, grant, whatever bursary, as there are young people applying. And so the Federation in many ways worked with Mary Ellen and other people to say, you know, this is an issue. They're another group of champions. So that still continues, but it went to a whole nother level when VIU stepped forward. A whole nother level.
It sounds like a pay it forward, you know, that kind of thing can evolve, because as you were saying, there's people who step forward, the people who are participating are willing to, you know, help others and get through this thing. And you know, as a former social worker myself, my stuff was in neighborhood houses. You know, that's what I worked into. I was in neighborhood house. And I had similar encounters with people in care and whatnot.
Sure.
That's just part of the business in that. But there was never anything like what you have now. And because one of the big fears, of course, used to be, oh, got to pay my student loan. And you know, that can sit with you for years and years and cause you to be, you know, set back. But I was thinking, I just heard an article, a news report recently in the United States. They were talking, someone was advocating the state schools, the state universities should be free. You know, they should not have any tuition, and they should be open to all that, which is not quite what is happening at your university, but it's getting close. It's getting close.
Yeah, for certain population groups, you know, it's an important one. And again, you know, Vancouver Island University is a regional university. We very, very much pay attention to the communities that we serve. But we also are a window on the world in that we welcome over 2,000 international students from 88 different countries.
Whoa.
And so it's an absolutely wonderful story in terms of the opportunities that are provided for all of us to learn from that multicultural piece. But then those students come in and learn in this environment. Those students are coming, they have similar fears, but it costs them a lot of money to come. We have many people in this community who don't go on to post-secondary because of the historical economic structure here, where you didn't necessarily need to go on to university to have a very good family-level income.
Sure.
But the forest has changed, and the forest industry has changed. There's still great jobs there, but not as many as there was, and you can't rely on them. Same with the fishing licenses and being on the fish boats. That used to be very, very good income for families and for many years, but that has changed. So now, as we look and we think about it, our transition rates from high school are quite low in our region, and a part of that is a part of this economic transition, people not necessarily realizing, although it's changing. And so a very important part for us is the K-12 system as well. and working with the counselors in the K-12 system, and they are paying a lot of attention to the kids in care and the foster kids and the ones that are not able to make a choice to go on to school. So how do we work with them, work with Steve and the Nanaimo Youth Services to identify the individuals who really don't have a hope of moving on into that place where they can get the education and contribute. And then we think about it collectively about, well, how do we address this? And so the guidance comes from, you know, a collective thought in the community. Because absolutely right, the pay forward notion, Paul, very important, because if these young people are not contributing, they may indeed need the support systems to be able to live in our communities. Yeah. We've got another initiative where we're working with children that live below the poverty line. And we're well, I think the only university in the country that actually has a full-time person that works, and we're working with every elementary school on the island right now to get kids and families understanding that there's free money for kids in an RESP called the Canada Learning Bond if you live below the poverty line. And we've been getting more and more kids registered. We're not going to see them in the next 5 years, but we're going to see them in the next 10 years. And they're going to have a choice for school that may not have been an opportunity for them because they hadn't thought about it or the family couldn't support. And what we want to do is open up the possibilities of people to think that, yes, this opportunity is for me, and yes, and we want our institution, and again, because I know, as you commented earlier, it can be intimidating coming on campus for anybody. And we want it to be as welcoming a place as possible so that people come there, know it's their institution, and that they are welcome, and indeed we're asking them to come. We want them to come, and we want to support them.
Because I see that, you know, at the university level, like one of my fears was being judged. My intellect was going to be judged. You know what I mean? And that can be very, very intimidating to people, and not saying, well, how am I going to be out there and display, you know, my marks, everything are going to be there for others to judge me. But if you have the support system, which you obviously have put into place, and it's interesting that you've gone into the K to 12 age, and I noticed out at the university you have a high school out there.
Yes, we do.
And is that does that assist this program at all?
No, it's not related necessarily in that sense, but it is we have domestic students and we have international students in that, so it's a very exciting place to learn.
I think one of the things that that distinguishes VIU around how it welcomes students is its notion of to leap off from your sense of, you know, gee, I'm going to go here and have to display my IQ, and how am I going to do? Is that the VIU as an institution and the leadership with Ralph and the Board of Governors and others have a perspective on intellectual rigor and academics that goes beyond the sort of traditional notion of pursuit of a particular discipline, into understanding that there are all kinds of ways, different ways of learning. And so because of the history of VIU, the trades and a different level and type of education, but one as significant as a bachelor's degree in this discipline or that discipline, is incorporated. So the whole notion of citizenship and being able to contribute is at the university, but it doesn't take away the notion of a traditional university. And then the most distinguishing piece about this university for me and others, I think, is, and I can still remember the first time I met you, Ralph, he called in community leaders when he became the president, and he said, I'd like to have a talk with you about, as I start here, what is it that you see this university of yours? And he talked to us as a community of yours. What do you see as a primary focus for it, and what would distinguish it? What does distinguish it? And what distinguishes it is that VIU is in the Mid and Upper Island, and it is surrounded by a number of First Nation communities. Yeah. And traditionally, and when you look at the stats of, we talked about graduation, the graduation rates for a number of young people, particularly if they've struggled in any way, and then you add the whole cultural genocide piece that's occurred over history that we now acknowledge, the barriers were twice as high. And this institution is characterized by the fact that it has been embraced and become part of a relationship with First Nations that I don't think any other institution has. And that's not just the institution, it is what we hear from 47% of the kids come through my doors at Nanaimo Youth Services are urban Aboriginal kids or kids coming off reserve. If that's the ratio we have, then the number that are going and could be eligible for university is the same. We're not there yet, but that's what distinguishes a university, and it's, you know, the first chancellor as president that you chose was a hereditary chief, yes. Sean Atleo. Yeah. So I think that's.
I think we're going to be running out of time here. We got.
Anyway,
we just barely scratching the surface from my point of view, and I was thinking that. You know, we got about 2 minutes left, but is there anything specific that you might want to make sure that the viewers get a message of?
Well, I think what I would like to get a message out is to say that Vancouver Island University is a publicly supported institution that is the community's university. And it's through our partnerships with people like Steve and all those others in the community that we can do these things. And if anybody that is listening to this program or, you know, knows Steve or I or you, Paul, if you're interested in working with us, participating in any way, please call us. Please let us know, because
you're open.
We're open for partnerships, and we can't do what we're doing without the kind of collective community effort that I've seen emerge in this community.
I'm a newcomer to Nanaimo, as I mentioned earlier, but does the university have an open house, like an open session at any point? You know, where the public can come and just view the...
We do at a variety of different times, but, you know, we're pretty wide open. You know, we got pretty open boundaries, and we love boundary spanners.
Okay.
You know, so we love people who span those boundaries. So we'd welcome you up at any time.
Great.
And I think you'd be amazed at some of the things that go on campus.
Yeah, I'd love to come in.
Yeah.
I was going to say to the people who are watching this show, I hope you made a note of the things that the university is doing and where you can fit in and help. Doesn't matter what level, find out, dig in, and take a look at it. And if you have an idea for a show, if something you think you would like to have on Head On, give us a call. Get in touch with Melissa Hall and let her know that you've got an idea you'd like to explore being shown on the Head On show. Anyhow, thank you and goodbye for now.